Welcome to KPOV's Critical Conversations podcast, dedicated to featuring unique perspectives, challenging mundane thought, and questioning the norm. Listen at kpov.org, on YouTube, or on your favorite podcast app.
As always, I'm excited to introduce our next guest because he has been somebody who's recently on my radar with his mindfulness techniques, and he presented at the vegan breakfast potluck, and things that he had to say were so fascinating that we wanted to interview him and learn even more. So we are welcoming Stephen Burke to the show today, and he has been an aerospace engineer. He morphed into more of a leadership consultant and studied mindfulness and got a degree from the University of Aberdeen in mindfulness studies, which I think is fascinating that there's a degree out there that is focusing on that. And the thing that we're excited about hearing more of is how that relates to food and also how it just relates to everyday life. So we welcome Stephen. And to start with, we always like to know how you went vegan, why you went vegan, when you went vegan, and anything else you'd like to say about being vegan.
Thank you. So vegan, it was quite a journey for me. I think I was thinking about this morning that if you'd have told me how many years ago, when I left Wales to go to the US for the first time, that was 1997. If you'd have told me then that I would be vegan, not drinking alcohol, very little caffeine, I would never have believed it. Yeah. So it's been quite a journey. So and it's helped. My journey's been helped by Haley, my wife, being vegetarian and vegan. So she was a big inspiration. And for me, it started with doing yoga. I mean, I started getting into yoga practice in Seattle also. So in 1998, 1999, started learning about the principles in Eastern philosophy, about ahimsa and non-harming. And then it was quite a few years then before I actually decided to try being vegetarian, first of all, myself. So it was 2004, living in Germany, which is quite a hard place at that time to transition to vegetarian. Yeah. So I tried it for a month. I committed. I said to Haley, I'm going to give it a go for a month. I went from meat eater pretty much in every meal to vegetarian. And I did it for a month. And right at the end of the month, I wasn't convinced I was going to carry on, but right at the end of the month, I reached my end of the month, and that evening I went to a barbecue, and I overdosed in everything in the barbecue and alcohol. And next day, for a few days, I felt absolutely terrible. Yeah, and I thought, wow, I'm just not going to do this anymore. So I became vegetarian. Shortly after that, I gave up fish, so I was eating fish at first. And then it was only about Haley said, I think she said it's like 6 or 7 years ago that I turned vegan, and it's been and interesting for me is that going from meat eater to vegetarian, I couldn't say I felt any health benefit. I felt better in myself, and I felt better that I wasn't harming as much animals, but I didn't feel any better. I didn't feel more energy or better. My health didn't change. But going from vegetarian to vegan, I noticed a difference within 2 weeks. Yeah, so that was enough for me to say, wow, I mean, even if it was only for the health part, which it's not, then I'm convinced that vegan's a more healthy lifestyle.
What are some of the benefits you had in the 2 weeks?
Yeah, so it was a combination of things. One is like mental clarity. I just felt clearer, and I felt like I had more energy. I felt like just a different kind of energy in my body. It's really hard to describe, but really it came very fast. But I think when I was a vegetarian, I relied a lot on dairy. And I think a lot of people do. And I think cutting out that was probably a big part of that. But yeah, mental clarity, more energy.
Those are two big things. That's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you mentioned the term ahimsa when you were speaking. Can you describe that a little bit more for some of our listeners who might not know what that is?
Yeah, so when I started doing yoga, they talk about the Ashtanga yoga at the time. The first part of that is the yamas and niyamas, and one of those is ahimsa. One of the first ones is ahimsa, and that is non-harming. I think is the best translation, or the translation I learned. So non-harming in your actions, in your thoughts, in your words. But for me, it really it's translated in all of those, but certainly in the actions, the treating all beings as worthy of living, and not harming was how it landed for me.
Did that come before you were vegan, or was that after?
That was before. That's what I thought. Yeah, that was what helped me go to vegetarian. So, I was doing yoga since 1999, 1999, that kind of time frame, and I first went vegetarian in 2004. Yeah, I can remember it clearly. It was in the summer in Germany. Yeah.
So I would really love to hear more about your travels. So you were born in Wales, and tell us all the places that you've lived, and also how that relates to veganism and the vegan food, as well as it relates to the mindfulness. Now, I know that you weren't vegan when you were living in some of these places, but any kind of tips about great places to go, or any kind of challenges that you had along the way, I really would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, wow. So I've traveled a lot, but it's been a lot of times to the same places, because I lived born in Wales, first left Wales to go to Seattle. So going from aerospace now, so going from Airbus to Boeing in Seattle. Wasn't even on my radar then when I first went being vegetarian or vegan. But then bounced back for lots of years between Germany and the US mainly. Yeah. But then outside of that, traveling a lot for work. So traveling a lot. I mean, with Africa a few times, with India several times, all over Europe, and to the US many, many times traveling. So I've had some surprises along the way. Well, I spent a lot of time in the south of France, working Toulouse, in the south of France, which is the headquarters of Airbus. There I always really struggled to get vegetarian, and at that time really struggled to get vegan food, and some pitfalls. Yeah, so a lot of time, go to a restaurant, a lot of time the fries, quite often these chunky fries, yeah, and that was when I found at the time going into a restaurant in the south of France for sure, it's like if you're vegetarian, or it's okay, salad or omelette were the options. If you were vegan, then it was salad, just a plain green salad. Yeah, so I used to augment that with fries, and it was only after I had them a few times that one of my French colleagues pointed out that they quite often fry them in duck fat. Yeah, so be careful when you eat fries in the south of France. In Germany, when I first went vegetarian still, Germany's great now. I think France also is much better than it was when I first became vegetarian and vegan. But in Germany, when I first gave up meat, and I had to be really careful because things would be advertised as a vegetable kind of a hot pot. Yeah, but it would have chunks of sausage in it. Yeah, even the salad or the vegetables on like a buffet style lunch would have bacon bits kind of sprinkled on top of the vegetables. So you had to really be careful about what you were asking for and what you were getting. But the biggest surprise I would say though is Madrid. I expected to really struggle in Madrid. But I actually had some amazing vegan food, and there's one vegan restaurant called Vega. I don't know if it's still there. I had the best vegan tiramisu I've ever had, and I never even know you could get a vegan tiramisu.
Lovely. There's something called a vegan passport, which I don't know if they sell it, currently, but I know you can get used copies of that, and that's basically a little notebook that shows you how to ask for different things all around the world.
Oh, that's cool.
Which would come in handy, right?
Yeah.
And then of course there's happycow.net, where if wherever you're traveling, you look up where the health food stores are and where the restaurants are. So I haven't traveled internationally since I've been vegan, so it will be a mind blower when I do get there. Can you talk about any kind of, I'm sorry.
I'm just going to say that it's become a real like high point of traveling now to look to find the vegan restaurants and try them, because it's, you know, when you do find even like the south of France, which I struggled with vegan food, but when you find a vegan restaurant, it's just exciting, yeah, and see what they're going to do with their vegan food. So everywhere I go, I immediately look to see where the nearest vegan restaurant is. Yeah,
on my bucket list is to go attend a vegan pastry course in France. Can you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
You know, all of the things that we used to think that we couldn't get, but now you can get everything veganized. What are some of the highlights of your traveling, being vegan, and then inserting the mindfulness into it too? Because I think mindfulness is a very important topic that a lot of people don't talk about. And I think that is a foundational belief system and a foundational way of living that really helps us face a lot of the challenges that we're facing today. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I mean, I would kind of wind it back a bit more, or step back a bit to think about, first of all, maybe just differentiating between, in my view, between meditation and mindfulness. You know, so meditation, I mean, is the practice. You sit down for the 20 minutes or half an hour and do your form of practice, whether it's mantra or prayer or following your breath, you know, to deliberate practice, like doing your yoga on a mat. Yeah. Mindfulness is, if you look at the definition of mindfulness, is the one I like is knowing what is happening while it's happening without preference. Yeah. So if you think about that, knowing what is happening while it's happening without preference, then that makes mindfulness a practice that is available to you from the second even before you open your eyes in the morning, you know, as soon as you start to waking up in the morning through to you fall asleep in the evening. So it means that every step of your day and every step of your journey, if you're traveling, can actually be is an opportunity to be present, yeah, and to be mindful. So bearing that in mind, I think when I travel, I think the interesting thing about traveling is that you don't have your home rituals or habits or access to food. So so as I'm traveling, just noticing, you know, whatever kind of emotion or mood I'm in, or, you know, if I'm really hungry or I'm tired or I'm frustrated or I'm anxious, whatever it is, and noticing how that can lead to the risk that you'll kind of deviate from the diet, yeah, or whether that's eating unhealthy foods or eating non-vegan foods. So it's really interesting when you apply mindfulness to that, is to start noticing, like, wow, what is it? Is it when I get tired? Is it when I get hungry? Is it when I get cross or stressed that I feel that urge rise to reach for the cookie or to whatever it is that we're going to reach for. And that first noticing is a massive, one of my old teachers, Clive Sheridan, talks about that as being like the first massive step of your development, your self-development, that you're able to be present enough that you can notice, wow, I can feel myself, I feel that urge to grab that cookie or to have that whatever, and noticing it, and then being able to kind of work with it and not follow that urge and have the cookie, but wow, I can notice it come up. So what else can I do? Can I get the apple, or, wow, I'm just realized I'm really tired. I need to just make sure I get rest. Or I'm really stressed. What can I do about that? Go for a walk. That's a big thing about mindfulness for me, traveling, which is in general life, but certainly when traveling.
I want to make sure I got what you said correctly. You said knowing what is happening while it's happening without preference.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
And the without preference is important. Yeah. So, and it's because we tend to judge. Yeah. We tend to judge what is happening. We're judgment machines as humans. It's natural and it's helpful for us, but it can actually be, but in the context of mindfulness, there it's the judgment is either we're judging things as something I really want, I want more of, and I'm scared I'm going to lose it. It's something I don't want, so I'm pushing it away, rejecting it, getting angry, or trying to find a way away from it. Or it's neither of those, and we become indifferent and we get bored. Yeah, so and bored out. So that's going on constantly. I mean, right now maybe it's like, wow, it's a bit warm in here. I kind of don't like that. Yeah, or whatever comes up, and just being able to kind of distance yourself just a little bit from that preference system. Yeah, so you're more a choice about what you can do. Yeah,
so you're well practiced in this. Can you give people some tips about them they notice something, and then what are the steps to take to move and shift?
Yeah, great. So the noticing is right. I'd say something you can congratulate your boss straight away. Yeah, it's like, wow, I've done really well here. I've noticed. You know, so it's a great thing when you notice. So it's not a bad thing that you feel that urge to have whatever it is that you wanted, or to avoid whatever you wanted. But then it's, wow, congratulations to myself. I really noticed. So, and then it's okay. Noting that impulse, yeah, to want to reach and just to know and put yourself a choice. You know, by creating a little gap between feeling the urge and doing it, we're creating a space of choice. Yeah, so we can actually then we may still reach for the cookie, yeah, or the whatever it is, but we have that moment, a little microsecond of choice where we can, you know, just maybe every now and then at first just take the different decision, yeah, and notice how that works out for you. Maybe go for the walk when I'm stressed, or make sure I get to bed early if I'm tired. So start doing that, just noticing what effect that has, and just noting. And then as we talked about last week, you know, as you do this, you're kind of building a new muscle. It's just like doing the reps in the gym with the dumbbells. And you're building that muscle to pay attention, to notice, create that choice, and then do something different. Yeah? And then not get too hard on yourself when, or you catch yourself later. You think, wow, I didn't notice that urge and I followed through, or I noticed the urge and I still followed through. Just noticing, okay, what are the situations that really are hard for me to work on, and then finding the easy things to practice on and build that muscle. Don't know if that gives you a good enough answer to implement, but that's kind of how I would work with it.
That's really helpful. I think some people don't think that tools can be that easy. You know, they think they have to climb a mountain or do something, you know, completely extreme to have that peace. And it's like, no, you could just like take a walk, or notice a leaf on the tree, or counting to 10. Remember, like when you're a kid, you were told to count to 10. That, you know, you're telling your mind that you don't have to go where you were going, which is, I think, a wonderful, wonderful practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a nice little children's practice. I learned it from a children's mindfulness practice, but I use it myself. And it's when your mind is really distracted and you're kind of, or there's a lot of emotion. If you just get your hand and then with your finger from the other hand, as you breathe in, you go up, and as you breathe out, go down. Breathe in, go down. Now it's just 5 breaths with something to occupy your mind. Yeah, it's you can do as a simple practice.
So Stephen is outlining the with his finger. He's outlining his hand, his fingers. He's going up and down his fingers, and that's another mindful practice that you're stopping and you're doing something, and you're kind of distracting your mind from all the distractions.
yeah, and from the emotion as well. It's just it's helping you be present. So going up the thumb or the finger on the in-breath, going down the other side on the out-breath.
I love that. I've never heard that one before. Really clever.
Thank you. Yeah.
And you have 2 boys, and are they well versed in this? And are there particular challenges with kids teaching them this mindfulness technique?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, my boys are 12, almost 13, and 15, so 2 boys. You know, I've been practicing all their life, so they know I do it a lot, and Haley does it a lot, and my wife. And my younger son, he actually will sit because he kind of have seen me do it. So you'll see him sit and he'll just take a few breaths. The older son, very, very much not at all, but we never kind of force it. Yeah, they know what mindfulness is. They know the practices, but it's we kind of don't force it. Same with veganism. We don't force it. We want them to be their choice. So it's been mixed with our boys for sure. And also I think as they're getting a bit older now, that's what the parents do. So, you know, a bit of a revolt against what the parents do. So
right.
Yeah. So we just kind of model and offer, and if they want to do it, great. If they don't, they don't. Yeah, but it comes through in lots of things as well, though. Just, for me, because it's part of our lifestyle, just having a family breakfast, not having technology anywhere near the table, being present for the meal, having a family dinner, making sure there's like a quiet time and family time at night before you go to bed, getting out and getting healthy, having a shower, just being mindful in the shower. So there's lots of things that we've kind of implemented through the day, which I think they benefit from. But again, it's without forcing.
And tell us how the mindfulness relates to food, because you really spoke to some really fascinating tips when you spoke at the potluck last week. Can you tell us more about that as well?
Yeah. So, we talked about before about the difference between meditation and mindfulness, and if you think about the practice part of it, you can use food as a practice. So if you're not one to sit down and be still and cross your legs and breathe, then you can use a meal as a mind, or even just the process of eating a tangerine is very typical. And the smelling it, peeling it slowly, noticing how it feels, and then just eating it slice by slice, of the segment by segment of the tangerine. So you can make a practice out of food. And what you'll notice there is that, which we did in the raisin exercise when we met last week, you just realize how much we're missing of the process of food and eating, and how much like simple pleasure there is in just really even like the raisin, eating one raisin, having one nut, eating a tangerine. So you become a lot more aware then as you go and apply that in daily life. It's just really being able to notice when are you wolfing down your food and you're typing emails, or you're thinking about someone else writing a list, just noting that and say, wow, I'm missing this process of eating here. Yeah. And it's also not very good for your digestion. And so the more you can just be present and use that just awareness of the chewing, the taste, the sensations, the feeling of becoming satisfied with the food. It's just, again, it's a moment to moment practice that we can brings more enjoyment to eating.
That was really helpful for me, the demonstration you did at the potluck, because I tend to eat way too fast. I am busy all the time, and I'm going from one thing to the next, and I just tend to eat super fast. And I've been really trying to do some of the things you said, and it really is nice. It's helpful, and I know it's much more healthy to eat that way and not eat so fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I know that some of that is conditioning about, kids that grew up with a lot of kids in their family, siblings. Sometimes they had a fear of not eating. And so as adults, I have a friend who really eats fast, partly due to that. And his wife spends 2 or 3 or 4 hours preparing these amazing vegan meals almost every night, especially when he was working before he retired. And he would eat it like in 5 to 10 minutes, maybe max. And first of all, the appreciation wasn't there, and then his digestive system, I can imagine that could potentially wreak havoc. So, do you have a mindful way of encouraging someone, especially in a couple? It's a tricky thing. So, it's. Do you have any recommendations about how to approach that with someone?
Yeah, there's so many ways you can kind of work on that. And through that, come to mind, but I can talk to very briefly is the just making it a ritual, the meal a ritual. First of all, that it's and practicing the gratitude element. That wow, we get an opportunity now to have a healthy meal and sit together, and then incorporating that some really simple practices like which may seem odd and clunky at the start, but they can help kind of decouple that old habit. The old habit of eating super fast is really using your utensils, using your fork, and just noting that action of how you're cutting the food, how you're placing it on the fork or the spoon, how you're placing it in your mouth, and then putting the fork or the spoon down while you chew.
Thank you for listening to KPOV's Critical Conversations podcast. To hear weekly interviews on important topics, please visit kpov.org/critical conversations and follow KPOV High Desert Community Radio on Facebook, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app.